Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mrs. Hanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Huey?
Yes.
Mrs. Roebuck? Mr. Talmadge?
Okay. This time, the next item is the presentation and approval of the minutes for the meeting held August 18, which I was not here for. So would someone, if there are no changes, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Finish the motion that I'm not voting. I wasn't there. And the next item is a presentation of quarterly audit. And Mr. Holligan is here. Yes. Okay. Welcome.
Good evening. You should all have copies of the quarterly refund procedures.
Would you please state your name, please, for the record?
I'm Michelle Meyer with North Stevens Lovely. You're welcome. So this is our fourth quarter report, and it's for the quarter ended June 30, 2016. And on Exhibit A, or Schedule A, on the last page shows the fiscal year total expenditures, or disbursements and submissions. The total amount submitted to date is in the second column, and then amount remaining in the budget. There's a few in the clinics, and then the Livestream Behavioral Center that still have amounts remaining in the budget. Total of $386,000. And then the two hospitals and community health center exceeded their budget. Is there any questions?
Okay. Are there any questions?
I have one. Do we know, and this may not be for you, do we know what, I know what our budget is, but do we know what we actually collected?
Next meeting, because it's just before the year end, I'll have a number where we can do a budget switch and move the remaining funds around, and I'll know exactly.
Okay. So we'll chew that up the next meeting.
Yes, because I believe we received more than was budgeted, so we'll have more than that 300 to
Okay.
move around.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? If not, is there any public comment to the audit? Probably have not seen it. Anyone? Does anybody would like a copy that hasn't received it? Okay. So we need a motion to approve the quarterly audit. We have a motion.
I move to approve the audit as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. And at this time, we will ask if there have been any requests for additional funding. Or is there any request for other than what's already been submitted? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. And for the record, the recitation for the name of the taxing authority, Ms. Kirsten.
The name of the taxing authority is the North Lake County Hospital District. The rollback rate is 0.9639 mils. The percentage of increase over the rollback rate and the millage rate to be levied is an increase of 3.75%.
Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is a waiver of the reading of the entire proposed resolutions. You need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we waive the reading of the entire resolution.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion to waive the reading of the entire proposed proposed resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Vote is unanimous. At this time, we'll move on to the public hearings. And the first item is the hearing for public comments for resolution 2016-01, setting of the millage. Resolution of the North Lake County Hospital District providing for the adoption of the proposed millage rate for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. So at this time, we just need to open it up for the public hearing for comments. And do we have any? Any comments from the public? No? And Pat, were you going to make any presentation?
No, what I did with your kind of budget worksheet is show the one column for the windmill, which is what was proposed. Next column is the rollback rate, and then I just added a 0.98 mil column for comparative purposes. You've got the current year, 15-16 year budget, and then you've got actual expenditures through today. There will be more expenses, but I think we've paid the tax collector and property appraiser their fees, so I think we're.
Okay.
So by the next meeting, I'll know really the bottom line. That just gives you some comparisons.
So is there any discussion? There's apparently no public comment at this point. And is there any discussion from the board on the funding, setting of the millage?
I always like to look at percentages. I just like to point out that our expenditures are only 3.55% of our total actual collected to date. And I like seeing the funds being used to what they're intended for, unlike much of what government does. And I'm in favor of the 1 mil, knowing how shortfall we are, people still hurting in our community, people not having insurance, presentations we heard last month. I'm in favor of the 1 mil, especially seeing how little we spend on non-care, so 96.5% of our funds go to actually taking care of people.
And I think that's impressive. That is impressive. Any other discussion? Do we have, if not, close the public hearing and reserve comment to the board? Do we have a motion for the millage?
We can move that. You can have a motion, and we have to have a roll call vote on adopting the tentative millage rate. Is what we have to do. So you have to have a motion, and then we take a roll call.
Okay. So we need a motion from the board for setting the millage.
I'll motion to set and keep the millage for the 2016-17 budget year at 1 mil.
And do we have a second? Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion say aye.
We have to do a roll call.
I'm sorry, yep,
That's okay.
roll call.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Ms. Huey? Yes. Ms. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Talmadge?
Yes.
Ms. Roebuck?
Okay. The next item is the hearing for the adoption of the budget for 2016, resolution number 2016-02. resolution of the North Lake County Hospital District providing for the adoption of the proposed budget for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. Pat, did you have any comments?
No, but there again, if you look at the worksheet that I did, and then there's other pages that kind of explain how you get there. Number one, you can't budget more than 95% of your taxes. That's why even though the gross taxable is 10 million for the 1 mil, 9.5 is all we can do. Interest is, you can see this year we made 10,000. The year before, only a few dollars, and I think it's because of the way we're paying out differently. Before we were paying them when we sent to the state, we sent almost the entire hospital's budget in January, and now it's spread out, so the interest. So I bumped up the interest. The administration fees, the property appraisers, they send a budget, and they tell you what it's going to be. Tax collector is 2%. And then those other items are just kind of based on prior years. For the medical, what I did was fully funded clinics and live stream and split the hospitals 50-50. So that's where your numbers came from.
Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay. Is there anyone in the public that would like to, in the audience that would like to comment on the proposed budget? Has everyone received a copy of it? Okay, everybody's aware of it. Okay. Now, are there any comments from the board? If there are no comments, we'll close the public hearing and we'll take a motion. We have a
I'll make a motion that we accept the budget with clinics funded after budget and hospitals.
Second.
we got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Have to do a roll call.
Sorry.
It's a habit.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Mrs. Hanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Huey?
Yes.
Mr. Talmadge?
Yes.
Mrs. Roebuck?
Okay. Motion carries. At this point, we'll move, the public hearings are now closed, and we need a board action on resolution 2016-01. That's the one we did all of those. We've done both of those. So the letters of agreement.
I think Mr. Braun's going to address that item.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill Braun with Leesburg Regional Medical Center. The letters of agreement, if you'll recall, in the last meeting we had a presentation. It is something that's contemplated by the legislation that should the hospitals have the ability to send money to the state in order to bring down further Medicaid dollars, that we would be allowed to do that. We believe the state is going to ask for that. What we don't know is how much, and we don't have the formal letters of agreement. We do know that they are going to, ACA is already soliciting hospitals, but we don't know how much they'll collect from everybody and whether they'll need it all. And you'll recall in the past, sometimes they collect too much and they send some back and they never have the numbers right. So we're hoping they'll be a little bit more accurate, and if we get formal letters of agreement, which we would get, we'd actually get formal ones for the district to enter into. And in the past, because you don't meet maybe in between those periods of time that they want it back, we've requested the chair be given authority should those letters appear from ACA up to and not to exceed the allocated amount. Could be less, could be none, could be some. We really don't know, but as long as I think if we don't exceed the allocated amount, we should be safe. Yeah, I think otherwise you could approve doing that, but you really don't know, so I think you should probably let the chair and your attorney decide if that's get a chance to get the actual agreement, since we don't have that, probably won't have it until probably October is my guess. If they even do it. It's very different this year. They're having a lot of debate on how to do it. There is less dollars available than there has been in the past, but there is some available. So
That's what we did before.
we didn't do it last year. We've done it in previous years. Again, it's kind of hit and miss with the state lately. Kind of like the appointment process.
Do we need a motion for that? Okay, so,
I would make a motion to authorize our attorney and chairperson to coordinate with the hospitals and/or clinics if they're submitting for federal funding through these letters of agreement, and that not to exceed authorization for the amount of allocation.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the audience?
One of the items I just want to advise you, and then you get your approval. I gave you out a records disposition document. State law is very clear on the types of records we have to keep and what we can get rid of. Bank statements have to be held for 5 years. So I'm asking to be able to get rid of statements from October 2006 through September of 11. And we'll do this in October. Disbursement records have to be kept 5 years, so the same thing, October of 06 through September of 11. The financial reports, these are the annual financial reports that are submitted online to the state. You have to keep 10 years. So I want to get rid of the ones from October of 01 through September of 05. Agendas are to be kept for 2 years, so I'm looking to get rid of October 2009 through September 14. Detail revenue, which for in our case is really the receipts from the tax collector's office, you have to keep for 5 years. So there again, get rid of October of 06 through September of 11. Vendor files, those are the bills from property appraiser, tax collector, our office, the attorney. You have to keep for 3 years. So looking to get rid of October of 08 through September of 13. And as you can see by the sheet I gave you, you have to measure the boxes, weigh them in cubic, whatever. So they're done. I'm just waiting for approval, and then I'll wait till about mid-October to actually shred so that we meet we don't do it before September 30th.
Okay.
So I just need authorization to go ahead and shred all. And the shred truck actually comes to my office, and I will watch them. Because I have to sign off that I actually watched what date and that it's done.
Okay.
Have we had any public records requests for anything in the past couple of years?
No. No.
Okay.
And even so, the things that are more permanent, the minutes, certain things, our audits, those that don't have it. They're permanent, we have them.
Okay. Do we have a motion to give Pat the authority to shred those items listed?
I move we give Ms. Amos permission to shred the articles that she said here.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Is there anything else to come before the board?
Just a reminder, the next meeting is September 29th at 5:30. It's my understanding everyone will be here except for Ms. Huey. Please let me know if you're not going to be able to attend, just so we'll make sure we have a forum for that meeting for the final budget approval.
Okay. And another item of interest would be that the Republican Executive Committee has invited the representatives from the 2 hospitals and me to speak at a forum. Right now, I don't have my calendar. I don't remember the date. Some of you may. Phil, do you remember the date? 14th. Fourth Tuesday. It's the 29th, I think, isn't it? Let's verify that. Tuesday. 27th, okay. And where do you know where it is? Various Civic Center, okay. So any of you that would like to come, would like to have you join us? I assume I think it's open. We did speak before the Democratic Club a couple months ago, and went over pretty well, I thought. Put that on your calendars if you can come. Is there anything else?
Just please keep in mind that we have a sunshine law with the board members, so Mrs. Hanson's appearing. Please don't attempt to be there.
Oh, that's right. Well, we can be there, just can't talk with each other. Oh, it'd be safer not to be there. Be safer not to be there. Okay. For those that aren't board members. Yes?
Yes, the agenda doesn't have a public input, but I just wanted to amplify the meeting that the Republican Party is having. Just to give you some background, is that Representative Matz is going to be bringing forth a resolution for the Republican Party to vote against the renewal of this tax, and that Senator Alan Hayes is a proponent of the tax. And he raised the issue of having some balanced information, so that's why you're there. They are going to have their formal meeting and vote after the public meeting where everybody is welcome to attend. Just to let you know. Good luck.
Good. Thank you. Oh, Vance, have you seen the website lately, or do you have any comments on it?
I have looked at it. I've gone through all the documents. Still, as I say, a lot of the issues are not categorized, inconsistent in the way that they're naming, but the most recent ones, they're all lumped into a meeting file folder, and you can find them. I appreciate that they were there. However, there isn't any real direct information. If somebody wants to know, okay, how does this all work, and what are these quarterly audits? Because all you see are headlines that say audit, and some of them are the annual financial audit, others are the quarterly audit, and the naming of these documents is inconsistent, so you have to search through different folders to find them. But one question that was raised earlier about public records requests is that most documents are there. You can find them. If you're following a recent meeting, you can get them. But if you wanted to look at, say, the last 3 years of documents related to, say, the financials, it's not organized because they aren't sorted by a field so that you can see a view that shows that. And that, to me, is still a restriction in the transparency. It just requires work. There's no guideline to find out all the different documents on there. And then, in many cases, they're ones that you have explained here, but they don't really explain what you're looking at. So there's still some work to go. I mean, if I was to be asked, is this fully transparent for somebody that's new going to the site, even somebody new from the hospitals wanted to look, I don't think they're going to be able to understand the document flow. Okay.
What kind of feel would you like under the financials?
Or I'm looking at it right now, and I just want to add
Well,
an example.
I haven't written it down again. She moved everything to WordPress, and I also, if you end up being renewed, then who is going to do this, because she's not running for re-election, Ms. Robeck. So I'd have to look at it again and tell you, but like I say, unless you have a professional that understands database organization, and I used to be one. So to me, I know very clearly what it is if I look at it. and I'd have to do another review of those documents, but
If you'd like to provide that to my office, we certainly appreciate it.
who's going to do the WordPress now that Ms. Roebuck is?
Well, we have been assisting her, sir, and I am looking at the website right now, and I just would like your input if you want to give me some guidance on it. I'm not saying that I will be doing it, but if you want to provide that, it would be greatly appreciated.
I'd be happy to, I'd like to train you into being a database administrator.
Bring it on.
Thank you, Vance, but at least all the information is there now, right?
And can we have Mr. Bauer, you know, give input on that? Ron, sorry.
Mr. Powell.
Just because I want to keep him involved, he's fun to do that. All right.
But Vance, all the information is, or at least a lot more of it's there than was before.
Yes.
It may not be organized quite as well.
And my concern, though, is that once this tax is renewed, that right now you still don't authorize videos of these meetings, and there's no posting of the audio. I do know where to find that, but it still makes it quite hard if somebody comes in and they say, well, I want to know where all that money's going and everything. They can look at these sheets, and there's not really a clear explanation for somebody. But of course, yes, I agree. They can probably, if you had more information saying, please contact so-and-so to explain how these things all work, that might help. But right now, it's people go in, I think, and they would just look at these documents and not know. I mean, you're new. Did either of you look at these and then understand the flow of all these documents? Without somebody sitting down and telling you and leading you through that.
I actually did go in and educate myself.
You're an engineer, though, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I actually put in the time to click and read and kind of go through. So I did find what I wanted. You're right, some of the titles were not consistently titled the same. So it was, as I'm going back in time, trying to see what past boards have done and why they've done them. But again, I did find it and found the information I was looking for. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm also used to looking up information as well. So
That's
I can't say it's easy or difficult for the general public to do.
From an accounting standpoint, you have a chart of accounts, and you label all your accounts, and you have a consistent coding system for that. But you don't have a consistent coding system for those documents showing up in that in the database. And so the consequence is either you go back and rename them with a consistent coding system, otherwise they're sorted out of order in different places.
What is a standard? How far back would be appropriate to go back and rename and recode so it will be certain?
I personally think probably 3 years.
Okay.
You know, and
Yeah, 3 years wouldn't be bad if you want to go back further.
I was tempted to say 10 years just to see her jump up and start throwing things at me, but
You're being reasonable.
2010. And there's contact information.
But we heard that there's only 5 years required for most of these documents, except a few. And they are in there if somebody like me or an engineer can figure it out and sit down, okay. But for somebody else that doesn't understand data categorization, it's like trying to find a library book that hasn't been categorized correctly, and so you don't find it under fiction because it's sort of showing up under, another category. And that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Welcome your input.
Do we have any idea can we track how many people actually go onto the website, or is that?
I don't have any
It
idea.
I
probably
don't either.
very few. I
I would think
mean,
it's very.
my viewpoint is because it's there, people don't. But if it's not there, somebody like me is going to raise the issue because when somebody that does want to go or they do right now, it may not be an issue, but as we get closer to this voting, people are going to become very apparent when they look at their line item that says LH HOSP and understand that that's one mill that they're going to be voting on. And I think that information will come out. And so then they're going to have to balance that against the huge onslaught of information, I think, that will probably be coming out supporting the renewal. So, and I don't have a problem with that. It's, I want the vote, that's all. I'm probably going to raise the issue that this is still subsidizing nonprofit, privately owned institutions, and we're one of the only counties that does it. And why should we be doing it when the other counties are not? And so if it was like a state law and said every county has to have one of these, and that they all are putting into one mill, or that they can roll it back based upon their just local decision making, that's fine. But right now, why are we doing that? For 40 years, we've been doing this.
Well, maybe, I haven't asked this question, or found anybody to answer this question, but how come South Lake is not being done the same as North Lake?
I don't know. They just were created. Matter of fact, I got a call from someone on the board down there wanting to know what's going on. They said, no, I know in the past it's been discussed. They are different. I can't remember right now what the differences are. And of course, that's their decision. I'm sure some people here will tell you. Maybe you could ask Mr. Braun to.
But generally, it's a taxing district as well that Sept generally.
The reason there's reforms here,
They want to.
the reason there are reforms here is because a lot of people put a lot of effort into this, because before this there was absolutely no oversight really on how the money was spent.
Right, since the question was asked, why don't we ask Mr. Braun to come up then? And Mr. Halligan. Yes, Mr. Halligan first, please. Might as well get it on the tape.
I'm always happy to hear from great accountants.
Sure. Well, there's some questions asked and some comments made, and to the extent I can shed light on that, that's what I'm going to try to do. The question was asked about why this district is different than other districts. And so, look, I am CPA for 6 Florida healthcare districts, hospital districts, and some operate pretty much exactly like this. I mean, West Volusia is a good comparable, where they charge a millage and they reimburse providers.
Privately owned or owned by the government?
Not for profit. When you're mixing apples and oranges when you say privately owned, a not-for-profit organization, like a lot of these providers, in fact, all of the providers, are not privately owned. I don't think any one of them is privately owned. They're not-for-profit, community-based, mission-driven.
They're not taxpayer.
Not-for-profit. There's no. Well, the reason why you have a not-for-profit hospital and why they're given an exemption on property taxes, the reason they're not-for-profit is they don't pay taxes. That's the difference between a Leesburg Regional and an HCA for-profit hospital, for example. If they weren't here providing those services for the residents of the district, then the district would have to provide that. And so there's sort of an exchange between government and the not-for-profit community that, look, you guys do what you do, taking care of the sick and the poor and the elderly and the frail, and that way we don't have to. Because you can go and ask people to make contributions, which is voluntary taxes, right? Open your checkbook and write a check to support this not-for-profit nursing home, for example, because you care about the sick elderly, and you want grandma to be taken care of the way she deserves to be taken care of. So they're not privately owned. Nobody's privately inuring. Nobody can sell one of these and pocket the profit, the gain from the sale. So I just want to be clear about that. There's some big districts that support, that do exactly what this is. The Palm Beach County District, the Broward County Hospital District, in Brevard County, the North Brevard Hospital District has authority, and I'm going to say North Brevard and South Lake are very similar in that they both own the hospital. They own the providers, they employ the doctors. And so they're actually in the game of providing the services. You're not. right? You're just subsidizing the providers. They actually own the providers, and they make money at that. And so North Brevard doesn't, or hasn't for many years, charged a millage. Now their hospital isn't making as much money as it used to, and it's possible that they will charge a millage in the near future. In South Lake, they were in that same situation, but instead of charging a millage, what they did was they sold half of the hospital to Orlando Health. And with the proceeds of that, we're able to become solvent and be able to continue subsidizing the hospital's losses with the proceeds from sale of half of the hospital. In West Orange, they had West Orange Hospital District. They owned the hospital and the nursing homes, and they sold them as a package to Orlando Health also. And so now they have a big pot of money that they will use, it's 125 million, something like that they will use to subsidize healthcare and to fund the mission of making West Orange a healthy community. In fact, the Winter Park Hospital, which was sold in Orange County also, they put the proceeds into a foundation whose mission is to make Winter Park, the city of Winter Park, the healthiest city in America. Who knows if they'll get there, but that's their mission, and they have a big pot of money to help make that happen. So to think that we're singular, that we're unusual or not like other communities, I think you're overreaching when you say that, because I don't think we are. So
There's maybe 15 counties that do this, right? And the rest,
Sussex County, yeah, I can think of 15, sure.
that's about the number I've been given. And the rest of the counties and the hospitals do not have a tax like this.
Yeah, many of them had districts and allowed them to sunset. Our current governor comes from the
Fired
for-profit
up. This is good. You could.
comes from the for-profit hospital world and takes issue with that. And he's flat out said that he would like districts to go away.
But you have several counties that also feed off of Lake County. Sumter County, don't know about the villages too much, Village and Marion County. So we are benefiting other counties also. Maybe they don't pay the taxes, but it's
Big
community
problems
thing.
coming for him. We'll probably lay out a lot more because Mr. Metz has, I know, a lot of information on that.
And
I'm feeling from memory that it's.
I'm just not real sure.
It's not organized and categorized.
I'm not real sure why he's opposed since he developed the legislation for
reform.
this one. So, anyway.
A couple other points, if I may, Vance, and I'm hard of hearing, so I may not have heard you right, but I thought you said at some point that looking at the website, which granted, the website needs to be better organized, that you can't tell how the money is being spent or for what purposes. And I would direct you to the audited financial statements that the district submits to the Auditor General of the state of Florida that are on the website. And that really is a verified, it's been scrubbed and gone through a rigorous review by the CPA that does the audit of the district. And those are on the website. What we do, the commissioners call it trustees, they call it an audit. It's not really an audit, it's agreed upon procedures. And these are on the website. And when you say that you can't really tell why we're doing it, every single report that we have issued has on the first page a paragraph that says purpose of the procedures. And it kind of gives the background of why we're doing it.
I will agree that the reports that you prepare are good standalone reports. It's whether somebody finds them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't be called audits on the website. Maybe they should be called
I spent
on verification procedures or something like that, because there really aren't an audit, as that term is the technical term. And it confuses it with the audit that I was describing, the financial statement audit, which causes confusion.
just like I categorize books, that it is confusing, and that's part of my point. It's that They're just the term audit, and then some of them start with the date, and then others don't have the date at the beginning, so they sort differently, and so forth.
I know what you mean.
Mr. Brown?
Okay, thank you.
I haven't played chess.
I'm not real sure I can remember everything that I wanted to say to all your answers. And I know all you are getting paid by the hour, so I won't keep you here any longer than they have to. I know that paycheck that you're getting for sitting up here and doing good community services is a lot.
For $9 million, I would hope that they do spend the time to listen.
And they do listen. They listen, and I think most of them have been on the board and have heard you say the same things over and over and over and over and over and over, and a lot of misstatements and unverified facts. And I think what you have to understand is what you've already heard, that we are not private entities. Our assets are community assets. Every dime we put into those buildings and machines and stuff belong to the community at the end of the day. We can't, as he said, sell them. And one of the big differences too is and why we're not taxed is our money does go back into the infrastructure and the operations. It doesn't go into shareholders' pockets. That leaves the community and doesn't go to Nashville and to the people who own shares of HCA or Tenet or those.
And overhead payments that go to the holding company over Leesburg Regional and also to the Adventist system.
I can't speak for the
I
can't speak for the Adventist system, but the money at Leesburg goes to the operations of Leesburg, and these are verified claims, so they're reimbursing us for care we provided to those who can't afford the care. And on top of what we get, what we spend on those district residents, we spend on a bunch of other indigent residents that we don't get reimbursed for. So I think we're doing our part in trying to do more in keeping this community healthy. You mentioned other communities don't have tax districts. I challenge you to go look at how those hospitals are operated and run, and how well or how inadequate those hospitals are. How many beds they've shut down, how long their waits in their EDs are, whether they have the newest equipment, whether their community is really getting the best health care that they can get. And I would tell you they're probably not. But cities like Orlando, who give each of their hospitals $60 to $40 million in tax dollars, maybe not through a district, but they get that's $60, $40 million. Each hospital in Orlando gets that to help take care of their indigent care. Jackson Memorial in Miami, Florida gets hundreds of millions of dollars in tax dollars. So there is no free lunch, I guess, is really what you should understand. And honestly, $3 million to each hospital is a bargain deal that this community gets, the health care that it gets. It's a good deal. It's a good community partnership with the hospitals. It always has been. It's why we're the third, we're right now the fifth largest open heart program is here in Lake County, because this district exists and we were able to build that infrastructure and build that program. None of the programs that we have today, the neurosurgery program, the pediatric program, the OB wing that we have, I would challenge you to find that would be in a community that didn't have this help with the payer mix that this community has. This community doesn't have thousands of jobs that pay $70,000 a year who have great health insurance benefits. This community has a very low payer mix, and 80% of it is government pay. And government pays us less than what it costs to provide you with an open heart surgery. So I don't know how you continue to do the things that they do in healthcare, how the clinics continue to do the things they do without that. So I think that means I need to be quiet.
No, I don't know.
I don't know. And I didn't mean to go off on that long-winded tangent, but I think thank you for what you do, and thank you for supporting the healthcare of your community.
Well, I appreciate the information that you share, and I think that's one of the things that I like to see.
Somebody's doing
There's
reviews.
rats in the building. It's clapping. And I would hope that maybe you bring those out, because I think that is important to share with the
We have shared that with you for 5 years.
I know you have.
For 5 years.
So now the public is going to get the vote, and that's part of what I want to see, is that you share that information.
And I think that's very important. The public needs to know that rather than the negative that we're hearing. So
And I have not met, but researched our adjacent counties, just curious as to why, being an engineer, always being inquisitive, and I like facts, I don't like feelings, I like facts. And what Orange County does with their hospitals, yes, is different. They're still major tax dollars going in the hospital system. Seminole County the same way. And looking at the Marion County, when they closed their taxing district up there, and their hospital went for-profit, and learning of the services that are no longer provided. When I found out my son possibly broke his back and was headed to Ocala Hospital, it scared the hell out of me. And I was wanting to get him back here in Lake County, so where I know our services are better. But fortunately, that incident turned out okay. But I have not looked in all 67 counties, but looking at our adjacent counties, I don't think there's a perfect system out there, but I like ours. I think and what you said about the patients that we have, our makeup, the income, who's on Medicaid, Medicare. One of my best friends is a pharmacist in a small independent pharmacy, and he shared some numbers with me of 80% of his patients are Medicaid, Medicare patients, and his profits are extremely low compared to other pharmacies in other areas. I wonder sometimes how he's still in business, but it's amazing that I don't think you can have a system that works for all 67 counties, because we're all different in our makeup. You have big metropolis of Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Miami-Dade, and they have big bucks going into their system. We don't have, like you said, the income, the big business generators, the big tax base so this is how we do it. I'm not sure who originally set it up or how it got set up, but it seems to be working for us. It does not cover, all the expenses, so I've heard Vance's comments and take them and listen to them and take the criticism and I try to do my own homework as well, and I like being challenged, and so I go and do my homework and try to listen and see what it is. And so I'm still in favor of our district and the work that we do, and I'm proud of how much that we're able to put back into care. Yeah, it's a lot of money, $9.5 million, but 90.3 of it goes into care.
And without it, all I have to do is look at Livestream.
Yeah.
Livestream is always short of money, and where would they be without the hospital dollars? You got more mentally ill that are out there and won't be able to get help. Maybe get some, but there'll be a long list of people that may be in front of them. Joyce? No. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. All right. Well, if there's nothing else to come before the board, if you can come to the meeting excluding the board, then we'd be glad to have you on the 27th at the Tiberias Civic Center. So, okay, we'll close the meeting. Adjourn the meeting.